Excited to be joined by Jamie Morris, Michigan all-time rushing leader and co-host of the M Zone on WTKA The Ticket. Jamie, how you doing?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you doing? Oh, by the way,
yes,
I am fourth all-time leading rusher now. I've slid down quite a bit. There's a story about that, though. You know, Mike Hart is the all-time leading rusher. Anthony Thomas is the second. And yes, I know my place, but they decided. Remember Deshaun Shoelace?
Yep.
Denard Robinson? The football administrator decided when he got drafted and he became a running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they put his yardage over in the running back category, which slid me down.
Oh, I got beef with that.
He should be over in the quarterback area, but he has been moved over to the running back area. So, yeah, I am the fourth all-time leading rusher.
No, but see, Jamie, not to me because time stopped when we graduated from college.
Oh, okay. I got you. And I appreciate that. God bless you.
And what we do need to do is we need to alert Wikipedia or figure out how to change it because it still has you as the leading rusher.
I love that Wikipedia guy. I'll keep paying him.
So, Jamie, we wanted to have you on, obviously, to talk a lot about college football and college sports. Before we get to this crazy realignment that's been going on, can we just get one thing out of the way? Because I hear this from the Michigan faithful that I talk to all the time, which is the panic over recruiting rankings a year plus out. Can you please just help us calm those people down that means nothing?
Jamie, I'd like to point out we don't have those concerns at Rutgers. We're not quite Michigan, so we don't. We just looked at this year.
Well, I expected you to come out and hit me with, Rutgers on top of Michigan this year, in recruiting so far right now. But we've had a couple of signings, so we're starting to right the ship. And Jeff, you're right. Look, there are some concerns. We have a lot of things that happened this past season. We had a great season this past season, getting a chance to win a Big Ten championship, go to the college football playoffs and participate in the Final Four of college football. But what happened was we didn't take advantage of it fully right away. And I think what happened was you had Jim Harbaugh entertain the NFL instead of being on campus in Ann Arbor on National Signing Day. He was in Minneapolis, St. Paul, talking to the Minnesota Vikings. That's being used against us. The NIL, Michigan decided to do it a different way. While everybody else is doing it another way, Michigan decided to do another way, and it's kind of confusing to the recruits. So we are a little slow, but things are starting to pick up now. And so no more worries. I think we're moving in the right direction.
You mentioned NIL, and we'll get to realignment. I was going to go there, but it kind of fits with where we are. Talk about NIL as a recruiting tool. And with some of these schools, Michigan's not a school that doesn't have access to private funds, but you said they went a different route. Does this widen the gap between the haves and have-nots, or widen the gap between the people who are willing to figure it out and the people who want to take a different route? Like, where does this create a divide in how schools handle NIL?
Well, I'm just going to say it like this. If you were cheating, now it's legal to a certain extent. It's legal now. If you were paying guys under the table, you're paying guys on top of the table now. And you can do those things. You just got to disguise it a little more that you're employing these young men as opposed to just giving them money on the side or for the tickets that they're voluntarily giving you and different things like that. So, look, it's something that down south, it's regular. We now we can do it in the open, and we call it a collective. It's us, all of these business owners and different people coming together, and they call themselves a collective, and they're looking for the services of these young men to participate in their different businesses and joint ventures and everything like that. I mean, hey, NIL, it's about time that these student athletes had an opportunity to get paid, to get something in their pockets. Because, look, quite frankly, it wasn't fair. long has it been gone that the grant and aid that you got and the education you got at that institution, that, that should be enough. Now, these student athletes are getting their educations, but they're also getting what they deserve as part of what the growing prices at the college football level, the prices and the money that these universities and institutions are getting. So they're a part of it. So I like that idea. But that being said, you really got to, when the NCAA instituted this, they really needed to put rails on this. They really needed to get in front of this and put rules on top. Now you got the Wild Wild West, and people are doing it. And institutions as well as states. This is not a federal thing. You can't just say now all the states own this. If the state said you can do these things, you can do it. Now, institutions are putting their rails on it themselves, but if you challenge those rules, they wouldn't go through. If the state says you can do it, guess what? The two schools in the state of Michigan are state institutions. They're not private schools. So that being said, it's the state that rules, not the universities that say what you can and cannot do. It's the state of Michigan that gives you the rights to do things. So that being said, it's going to be tough. And like I said, now we've decided to do it another way. We've decided the current players are going to get paid. When you get here, you earn your payment and you play, you get paid. Different idea. These young men, young people look at it. No, that's not what the rest of the college football is doing. So, and it's taken a little bit. And you know what? Eventually, once you figure it out, you miss on some 5 stars, some 4 stars, some guys that you really need, you'll start swimming the right route. I think that's just my opinion. They'll figure it out. They need to figure it out, and we're gonna need that.
Well, you mentioned the rails, and to me, that's the big problem. You have universities that are reticent to do certain things that other universities either did before or aren't reluctant to do. And is it time that a school like Stanford or a school like Michigan, do they have to bite the bullet now and just say, as unpalatable, as unseemly as this seems, it's not illegal. And so we're going to have to do it if we want to compete.
I think you know what, to make a long story short, yeah, they're going to have to get into the pool like everybody else, or they're going to get left behind.
Will they?
And I think, and I can't speak for Stanford, but I can only speak for Michigan. There is a groundswell right now because people watch the recruits come in. They've seen what goes on. We've had 5-star athletes come on. They've had an opportunity to go to ring ceremonies, the Big Ten champion ring ceremonies, and see the pageantry. We can sell all the tradition and history at the University of Michigan as we can. But on top of that, you've got to get into the pool. Now, we're reluctant right now, like you said, Jeff, and kudos to us for trying this, But eventually, you're going to have to swim the same route as everybody else, or you're going to have to come up with another idea to make sure that these young men, when a recruit comes in, he wants to talk to 2 people. He wants to talk to his position coach. Well, he wants to talk to 3 people. He wants to talk to his position coach, where they have him, what they see in him and everything like that. He wants to talk to the head coach, talking about the future. And then he wants to talk to the NIL guy. He wants to find out what his worth is. And those are the 3 people that he wants to talk to. I mean, obviously, they got to show the campus and different things like that. But those are the people you really want to talk to. And until we decide that's what we're going to do, you miss out on some players that are down with it. I mean, if you go south, you bring a young man up to the University of Michigan, his thought is, I'm going to meet the NIL guy, I'm going to meet the head coach, and I'm going to meet my position coach, And just right now, that's not happening.
You talk about getting in the pool. The question then becomes, where's the pool going to be located when the music stops? Because we've got realignment going on everywhere. If you're a recruit right now and you're being recruited out of high school by Oregon or Washington or a school in the Pac-10 that who knows where the Pac-10 will be or Pac-12 will be when this is all done, do you look away from that school because of that? How does realignment now factor into the decision in addition to NIL?
Well, I think in my belief, there's going to either be 2 or 3 mega conferences. Okay. And so one conference, the ACC or the Big 12, they've got to amass their conference really quick, and they got to keep their teams, and they've got to become a mega conference or they're going to get left behind. Right now, you have two superpowers, as we call them, the Big 10 and the SEC. And I'm going to say, just to say this, I mean, the Big 10 matched the SEC. They went and got USC, and now they touch the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, which is a big, everybody goes, how are they going to fly? What have you heard what the media compensation will be from Fox and all the other media people that want to be involved? I mean, you're talking about $100 million a year for each university, and that goes to the Department of Athletics for each university. So, I mean, I get it. UCLA jumped in quick in the Big Ten pool because they were going to cut sports next year. There was no way they could sustain their sports, but now they slapping high five. Them and USC are slapping high five. I'm just going to say this, and I read enough on this. I even talked to my people in Oregon. That Phil Knight wants in on one of these mega conferences, and he's going to get Oregon in somehow, some way. That being said, I see Oregon and Washington joining one of those mega conferences. Now, if you add Notre Dame to it, now Notre Dame's got to make a choice. But here's what you do: if you're the Big Ten, and I'm not saying Mr. Warren will do this, but if you're the Big Ten and you want Notre Dame, go get. Here's what you do: go get 3 more out of the pack. You said it right, Pac-10, and grab Washington, Oregon, and Stanford. What did you just do? You took 2 of the West Coast rivals of Notre Dame each and every year. You got Michigan State, that is a big rivalry for Notre Dame, and you added Ohio State as a potential rivalry game. Every game is big in the Big Ten, if you get it. I mean, obviously they need to change their name, but to the Big 20 or whatever you want to call it. But it's, and then you got the SEC. And I saw this. SEC is talking about adding what they were adding. They were going to add North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, and one other one.
Miami?
It wasn't Miami. No, it wasn't Miami. It was Virginia. They were talking about adding Virginia, which confused me. You were right, Jeff, because I thought Miami too, but they didn't say Miami. So that's huge too. Like I said, if you're the Big 12, you need to put something together. Or if you're the Pac-10 now, you really got to get your teams together.
They are the Pac-10 again.
Right. No, you're right. That's why I said this week.
They could be the Pac-7 in a couple days by the time this is all done.
Arizona State are talking to the Big 12 right now. So, I mean, that's something that can be pulled off. So,
but in this day of student athlete mobility, you have now universities that are mobile. They're literally moving conference to conference. Nobody knows where they're going to end up. If you're a student at one of those schools, imagine you went to, I'll just pick one, Oregon State, who isn't being mentioned by anybody. Those kids are going to sit there and panic, and they're going to want out. I'm sure that some of those kids are already looking and trying to decide if they're going to enter the transfer portal. conference realignment and the uncertainty of what's going on literally hour by hour is making college sports even more unstable than it already was.
Agreed. Look, here's the thing, Jeff. If you're an athletic director and a president, you better be putting your skates on too, because right now you better be calling other conferences that are putting things together. Because look, this was foreseen. If you look at it, the Big 12 brought in West Virginia, for Christ's sake. I mean, come on, really? We should have saw this coming a while ago. Now, the Big Ten wanted to keep the traditional.
The Big Ten brought in
Midwest.
Rutgers. I'm a Rutgers guy, but I mean, when the Big Ten brings in Rutgers and comes to the East Coast, you know it's not what it was.
No, you're right. And the Rutgers brings what? The New York media,
which is
New
what
York media market,
which is what excites them about UCLA and USC is they get in the LA market. So then it get back to the TV contracts you're talking about. And look, as a Rutgers fan, I won't mind a trip out to LA for a rivalry game. I'll get to go see the Big House for a game that never would have mattered when Rutgers plays there. So for me, as a school that was in a conference that wasn't as big in the Big East when they were there, now I'm in with bigger schools. I wonder how the big boys that have been in these conferences feel about all these guys just trying to glom on to what they've made. How does a Michigan feel about all of this, or a Michigan State, or the original Ohio State? I know you guys don't care about how Ohio State feels, so I don't want to mention them in anything.
No. One hand claps the other. I get it with that rivalry and being a player and all of that, but I get it. It's one hand claps the other. We look, they needed us to win. No matter what you hear the current fans say, we want to keep beating them. No, they needed that loss to make this rivalry even bigger. That game in Columbus this year is going to be huge, especially if these two teams come together and they have only one defeated and it's all for the money. You know what I'm saying? So this is that rivalry. I tell you, Lorenzo White is one of my closest friends. We love that when the two teams at mid-season are undefeated, because it makes that game, it becomes a national game. Not a regional game, it becomes a national game. And Michigan State should be a national game, but we need everybody to win so we can make it a national game. So it's important. And I get it. And everybody thinks you hate Michigan State. No, I don't hate Michigan State. I don't cheer for them, but I'd like to see them win because it intrigues the nation more.
Jeff still hung up on so for Ohio State, so he can't get past that.
You know what? I'm looking for the Jamie Morris too, so I just registered that.
Right, well, the Jamie Morris. You mentioned the transfer portal, and I mean some numbers. In 2021, the number grew to 12% for FCS and 16% of FBS players entered the transfer portal, but only 5 out of every 10 actually find a new school to play for.
Sure.
What's it like for these kids? You know, if somebody was on your team and they said, I'm so good, I'm going to leave and go someplace else, and then no place else wanted them, and they come back to your school. Like, we always talk about what happens to the kids that go and find the greener pastures. What about the kids who can't, who overrate themselves? Like, what's the transfer portal effect these days on these schools, especially with the movement where when you're at a school that isn't in a conference you thought they were going to be, all of a sudden you can just up and go?
Well, now you've got to you got to educate yourself as a student athlete, and you've got to have the right people around you. Mom and dad can't say, "Oh, you're better than them, honey. I've seen you play." No, that doesn't work anymore. That doesn't cut it. And you're a judge of talent yourself as a student athlete. You better damn well know that you're better. You're a better player than anybody on this team, and the coach is not playing me for this reason and that reason. If you have those problems, then get into the transfer portal. If you don't, you better man up and say, I ain't going nowhere. I got to get bigger, stronger, and ball. Because here's it, like you said, they've taken it, and if they're not playing right now, look, I would have put rails on the transfer portal too. You can transfer. You only get to transfer one time, or you put the rails on it and say you get to transfer one time, and you can go after your sophomore year. You got to guarantee a kid needs to stay there for 1 year, especially the freshman year, because you're away from mom and dad, you're away from all of your friends, and you tear away from your real life, and you go to an artificial life, and you know you're 18 years old, you're scared, You don't know what's going on there. Yeah, did I want to go home as a freshman? Sure. And I was playing. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. But once you get comfortable and everything like that, whether you played or not, you're learning and you're growing. And you got that. You got to get that. You got to get into that weight room because 18-year-olds, as much as we say he's a freshman and look at him playing right, you very far and few players play like that. I'm sorry, it's redshirt freshmen that play. I'm sorry, and the TV guys got to say it's a redshirt. They got to explain what a redshirt freshman is. He was in school for a whole year, did not play, and he got to play as a redshirt freshman. You know what I'm saying? Because it confuses everybody. Because everybody's going to say, "Why aren't you playing?" Now, the fortunate thing for me, everybody goes, "You played as a freshman." The guy ahead of me, just two guys ahead of me. One guy was academically ineligible after the second game of the season, and the other guy put his arm through a plate glass window. So, yeah, it came to me. I was fortunate enough to beat the two guys out in front of me, and I was third string, and I was the kick returner. Then I got to play, and it happens. But if I look back at that, boy, I should have been redshirted my freshman year. It would have been great. And, you think about that. But that's water under the bridge. And the transfer portal, it gives you the same authority as a coach does. Remember, your coach can come and go as he pleases. If somebody buys out his contracts and brings them to a university, he just leaves the kids there. So that's what a kid can do. It gives him the right to up and leave. Look, coach, you and I, we ain't cutting it, but you better know what you're doing before you do it. Now, you can go back and revisit all those schools that were recruiting you, and that's great. You can use that, but understand, make sure that those schools still have a love for you before you enter the transfer portal. Transfer portal is a great tool for these young people, but use it. It's again, you've got to have the right people behind you. You've got to have, I dare I say, you got to have a responsible adult that understands the transfer portal now. Can't say agent.
And I'm going to push back just a little bit because you said that if you had it to do over, you wish you were redshirted. That's the benefit of wisdom and time and all the experience and playing professional football and all of that stuff. These 18, 19-year-old kids, they're kids, and they want now. And they see that not only do they see playing time now they see NIL money. And now they see they can get drafted earlier. And they all, every single athlete who goes and plays college football, who gets a scholarship, thinks that they can be a pro. And so the immediacy of what they need and what they want, they're not going to buy it. They're not going to. You couldn't pass a redshirt rule nowadays the way that existed 30 years ago.
You could if everybody was in the fold, but you can't because you're right. It's the genie out of the bottle. You can't get her back in. That's the problem. You can't do things anymore because it's old school, it's tradition, it's all of these things. But yes, if they put the rails in front before they opened it up, you're right, Jeff. The kids would have listened, and they still do. Kids want discipline. But if you give them, okay, go play, they're going to go pick the best toys. I'm using that because of my 2-year-old. They want the best toys. They're not, the best. And how do they know what the best toys are? Well, because the other kids are playing with them.
Well, and sometimes the best toy is the new toy that gets their attention. And that's the problem is, you have somebody who gets to a place and they decide they're not getting what they thought they would. So they'll go find something that they think is better, and it may not be.
No, my dad has always told me this. The first choice is the best choice. Why did you go there? You felt comfortable there. You felt you liked the coach. You heard all the things he said to you. Look, I joked about and dare I say, Coach Moeller, rest his soul, who just passed away. There's a lot of players Gary Moeller brought to the University of Michigan. A lot of them wanted to go home, but they went and saw Mo before they went home. And look, most of them stayed and they played. And a lot of these guys played in the league and they thank Gary Moeller. This visitation is today, and there'll be over 200 former players down in Lima, Ohio, to make their showing. I mean, that's how loved he was.
So before we finish up, I did want to ask you, we've talked about the changes of the landscape. I grew up watching the Rose Bowl. I love the Rose Bowl, the pomp.
Jamie played in it.
Yeah.
Look, I'm lucky they let me watch it. So I had no chance of playing in the game. I know that. But what's going to happen to the tradition? I get that the tradition of bowl games itself is not what it used to be. Bowl season is now a year and a half long. It starts after you finish the last games. But a game like the Rose Bowl, when you would have had a USC, UCLA potentially playing a Michigan, Ohio State, now they're all from the Big Ten side. What happens to the tradition of bowl games like that going forward?
Well, the tradition of the Rose Bowl will change. They will still have a game, trust me, but it'll be mega conferences versus one another. It'll be the runner-ups from Mega Conference 1 to Mega Conference 2, because the winners of the Mega Conference will be in the Final Four of the the semifinals of the college football playoffs. I mean, look, the Rose Bowl had an opportunity to be a major part in this bowl game, getting a choice to be a national championship representative and have it every 4 years, every 5 years. And Rose Bowl knows what they need to do. Look, it's not just the bowl games. It's not just the players. It's the conferences. It's all of them. Everybody's got to get on board to what's coming. I mean, look, they talked about having Division One college football getting away from the NCAA and running their own division of that. And, there's a possibility of that happening. I know a lot of athletic directors are pushing it. That being said, and universities, because the athletic directors don't push anything unless their bosses are behind them. And you saw, because everybody was saying there's no way USC and UCLA is going to get in. You don't think that they work behind the walls and everything to get that done very quickly? That got signed pretty quick. So USC and UCLA knew that they could entice the Big Ten.
The one athletic director, he was I think it was UCLA's athletic director, was literally on a panel with other athletic directors. And the next day is when it came out that they were moving. It was crazy.
It was. And it's going to be even crazier. This is not over. Get ready. It's going to be a ride at least till 2024. At least till. When Texas, Oklahoma leaves the SEC, when USC, UCLA leaves the Pac-12, it's still forming. We're not done. Musical chairs are not done. This is just getting started because, like I said, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, California, UCLA is bucking for California to get into University of California because that's a school. They want them in there. Look, it's going to be, they're not done yet. The formation of these mega conferences, that's why I said 2 to 3. I think there's going to be 3.
All right. Well, Jamie, we really appreciate you giving us the time to give us your opinions and your insight on all the things that are going on in college football. It's going to keep happening. So we're going to keep asking you to come back.
Well, I'm available. I'm sorry. I got a radio show to do 3 to 6 Monday through Friday. But, hey, and it's called the M Zone, WTKA.com. If you want to listen to it live, go to the podcast if you'd like to.
And we always appreciate the time. We'll share that out for everybody. And you take care of yourself. We'll see what Michigan does and see what Rutgers does trying to compete with you guys.
Wait, Jason, say it for us. Go Blue.
Oh, no.
Come on, Jason, you can say it.
You can say it. It's okay.
Show. Come on, baby.
I can't say it with the enthusiasm that you do.
Just say it. Come on, just say it one time.
Go Blue.
There we go.
There you go.
You'll get used to it. Hey, there's a little Michigan in everybody's heart.
Does it get more comfortable the more you say it? Because it kind of got stuck in my throat as I was choking it out there. Thanks so much, Jamie. You have a great day,
guys.
man.
Jason and Jeff, you guys have a great day. Enjoy and go blue.
There you go. Thanks, man.